Yo, what's up? It's Will here, and yeah, today I will be doing something I haven't done in probably over a year, and that is one of these commentary gameplays not related to the actual gameplay. So I used to do these a lot about a year ago, and I haven't really had the time, so I finally can do them, and I think it's really cool. It's kind of a unique twist on things. Pretty much they do this a lot in Call of Duty YouTube videos. They'll leave a gameplay running and they'll just talk about some other random stuff not related to the game. Either college hookup stories or dating advice or stuff like that. You can search it up yourself. My favorite YouTuber who does this, and there's many, it's probably youtube.com/lol. It's Thad. It's an unsponsored plug. There you go, Thaddeus Punishment. But basically, he does the same thing but Call of Duty. So I thought I would switch it up and do it for League of Legends. I had this idea about a year ago, and I've did it in the past. So I think it's a pretty cool idea, and I'm excited to do one of these. So think of it as sort of like a podcast slash commentary slash story time with a little bit of entertainment for the gameplay. And the beauty of this, at least for the Call of Duty or Minecraft versions, is that most of the time the gameplay isn't that extraordinary. Like sometimes, I mean, at least for me, most of my gameplays are at least very, very interesting because I have a very unique, aggressive slash passive playstyle for most of my champions. So regardless, you are going to see some big plays. Regardless if I screw up or not, you'll see something huge. Anyhow, back onto the story. Yeah, for the Call of Duty stuff, man, most of the time, those gameplays aren't extraordinary at all. They're pretty bland, they're pretty average, but it's mainly the story, the audio portion of it that just keeps driving the viewers back. Like, you'll see some of these videos, they'll get like tens of thousands of views just based on an average gameplay and an awesome story or an awesome audio podcast to go along with it. So without further ado, we're already 2 minutes into this. Let's get to the topic of this video, which you'll probably see from the title. And so today I want to talk about, lifestyle and why it's so freaking important. So, in terms of lifestyle, you kind of have to live the life you want to live. So, for those of you who don't know, I am a college student, and I was and am studying general biology, and I've been under the pre-med track. And so, pretty much the problem is that with this major and with this track, it's kind of a sad story. Pretty much, back in the day, since high school, the people I hang out with, they were pretty passionate about their fields. So since high school, they were like, cramming for the SATs, putting in all this work to get good grades, taking all AP classes. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's the highest level classes you can take as a standard student in high school. And AP stands for Advanced Placement. Basically, you're taking college level classes in high school, and then you take a administered test, and if you do well enough, you get advanced college credit. And so they would put in all this freaking work, and pretty much ever since high school, especially one of my friends, his goal was pretty much to get into med school. And when he finally applied for college, he got in as a high school student to med school. He actually got into this program, which is pretty much like a post-baccalaureate program. If you get in, you are guaranteed at least 8 years. That's 4 years of college and then 4 years of medical school, which is big because you are pretty much bypassing the whole medical school selection process, which is huge. Like, you don't even know how freaking hard it is to get into med school. It is so hard, okay? First off, you need to get into a good college. It's not necessary, but it helps. And that alone is super hard. Like, especially if you're Asian, which I am, the chances of getting in are so much more difficult because of the selection process and the racial proportions. Pretty much, if you're Asian, if you have a perfect score on the SAT, 2400, perfect grades, 4.0, and all these advanced placement classes, you will still most likely get rejected from most of these schools because that's just how competitive the Asian scene is. And there's a minimal, limited amount of slots for Asian kids out there. So because of this, it's just retarded. And my friend would always complain about this because he would look at the stats and he would see African Americans who were getting like 2000s on the SATs and mediocre grades getting into like the schools he wanted to. And personally, I don't think there's anything unfair about that. They do have to, prioritize based on race. Otherwise, you'll get into a situation where the entire school is one race, which is probably going to be Asian, which does happen if you check out some schools. Like, I think I'm hearing like Cornell does that. They're much more lenient, and because of that, like 80% of the school is Asian. It might not be Cornell. It might be like UCLA well, it's definitely not UCLA, but it's one of those schools, USC or something. And so I personally don't have a huge problem with that, but I can see why he was frustrated. He was, in fact, so freaking frustrated that he actually joked that if he could, he would literally get plastic surgery to change his racial skin color to black, just so he can apply as an African American student. But regardless of all that, the point of the message is, yeah, it was very big for him. And I kind of got caught up in that, and I went through the same thing, and I got into a decent state university. And from there, I went through the same track. And then, I would say, more and more throughout college, every year, I realized, okay, this is interesting, this is cool stuff, but it's hard. It takes up a lot of my time pretty much every day. Like, literally, I would have to spend hours sometimes after school just to get this working, just to stay on top of the class. And it came to a point where it was like, literally, you've got like so many competitive people at just the state level university, not even like Harvard or anything. And getting an A was almost out of the question because of the competitiveness of the class. Like, literally, the grades were not based on just like a set mark. It was based on the class. So, if you know what a bell curve is, it's pretty much saying that the majority of the class will get C's, and then a smaller portion will get B's and D's, and then a very small portion will get A's and C's. So if you look on it, like on a graph, it's pretty much like a bell. And that's pretty much how they make their grades. They set the bell curve because that's pretty much what naturally people are like. Like, you get the majority of people in the human population are average, and that's why the hump of the bell will be in the middle. And so, because of the competitiveness of the class, if they just set like a marker, like, oh, if you get 90% on all tests, you will get an A, then everyone in the freaking class would get A's because that was how competitive it was. And apparently, the university doesn't allow this for whatever reason. So instead of awarding everyone A's for their hard work, what they do is they set a bell curve. So pretty much, a small portion gets A's, the average of the class, the average grade of the class, regardless of how much and how hard everyone worked in the class, that's the C mark point. You get a letter C for the class for that mark point. And then it goes from there. And so I got to a point where it was just like, you literally got freaking C's for all your work in the class. And even worse sometimes. And I was putting in so much work, studying so hard, and it wasn't fun for me anymore. It was just very painful. And pretty much, yeah, it was probably one of the darkest times I've faced in my life so far. Pretty much I would go to school, or in this case, college class, from my dorms, go back from my dorms to my house, or my dorm, go back from my classes to my dorms, study, and then from there it'd be late at night. So what would I have left to do? Nothing, because my dorm and everyone in it, the people there, they treated me like acquaintances. I treated them like acquaintances. I try to be friendly with them, but at the end of the day, maybe we just didn't have enough in common. Maybe they just wanted to stay acquaintances. Who knows? Maybe they thought I was weird. And so I played a lot of League of Legends because it was entertaining, it was fun. I could do it from the safety of my home, and that was my day. And I kind of pretty much fell into a sort of depression from it, because literally that was pretty much all I did. And yeah, it got really tough to a point where you were putting in all this work, and you were pretty much getting, at least according to Asian standards, crap grades just because of the competitiveness of the class. The one thing I do have to say is, for those Caucasian people who go to the class and do well, I applaud you guys, because literally I can see how an Asian person or an Indian person with that kind of culture can put in the work and stuff, but I mean, for a white guy or a black guy to do well and even get a better grade than me in the class, which I've seen before, that is literally something to applaud, because I know their culture is like lazy, and it's not like geared towards hard work and straight up pain and perseverance all day long. So it's really, really admiring to see someone who didn't have that culture to help them out do well in the class. So regardless if they're sabotaging my grade, I still respect them and admire them for putting in all that work to get that grade. And it's even more amazing when occasionally you see like a good-looking girl, or just someone who naturally, aesthetically doesn't fit the norms, do well in the class. Sure, you know, back in the day I used to get jealous and bitter and stuff like that, but you know, it's something to not do. Like, I don't feel like I got anything out of it other than more pain and suffering from feeling jealous and bitter. So that was pretty much my life. And what does this have to do with lifestyle? So first off, if you guys have actually sat here and listened up to this point, I want to thank you. And for that, I'm going to continue with the main part of my story. So, lifestyle. Think of the typical frat guy or girl. Let me just keep it simple and paint a picture for you. Let's say this guy goes to college, he's a senior in college, he's your typical fraternity guy. He has an awesome lifestyle, right? He goes to class, he's an econ major, economics, and his classes aren't too tough, but they're tough enough. And so obviously they're not as hard as my major as a pre-med, but you know, he goes to class, talks to girls, meets girls, and then he goes back to his fraternity, has lots of friends with his brothers, and from there he goes to mixers and other parties, and he meets a lot of girls, and he has pretty much an awesome lifestyle, and he just loves it. Well, the thing with this is, people with these types of lifestyles, like, that was literally possibly one of the fantasies that I had. I don't want to use that word, but I can't think of a better word. Like, I would say, like, one of the things that I thought would be the epitome of awesome, not so much the fact that you're in a fraternity or you have brothers or any of that, but it was mainly the fact that you're, you know, constantly busy. You had time to go to the gym, and you had time to do stuff, and you had a decent, tough major. Your parents weren't beating you up for, having a BS major or anything like that. And you had like a social lifestyle where you can meet, these awesome, good-looking girls and stuff. And I always thought like that was the epitome of the best girls at college. It would be like the girl who went to a sorority, who had brown or brunette hair, perfect face, perfect slim body, and dressed awesomely, like bright, mellow, cool colors with like short shorts or whatever have you. And that was just like the best possible lifestyle for me to live. And the thing with this is people will lean on their lifestyle as a sort of crutch, and that's not what you want to do. Despite having this perfect lifestyle, it's the same thing with being, kind of like spoiled and born into something. A lot of it has to do with luck, and you can really tell how much of it was straight up luck by pretty much what they do when all of that just vanishes from them. Some people will be very fortunate, and they will be born into some great lifestyle, and they will live that for the rest of their lives. But the chances of that happening are very, very, very slim and close to impossible. Even this frat boy in this scenario I'm putting out there, his lifestyle is not going to be so freaking awesome all the time. He himself might have the fear that come to the end of college, come graduation, he's going to lose this amazing lifestyle, and then he's going to be a minimal wage worker, or working a decent but not optimal job, and he's going to lose this whole social network he once had. And what I want to tell you guys is, don't use this as a crutch. For this situation, this example, this guy could completely lose it all once he graduates. In fact, if you look at the dating, or pretty much the dating advice scene out there, there's a lot of experts, dating coach experts out there who pretty much this is what happened to them. They were, complete bosses in college, and then once they graduate, they pretty much just lose all their social network that came with that. They lose all contact with all these people that they once met in college, because it was on such a superficial level, and they just took that lifestyle for granted, and they didn't realize how lucky they were. They didn't actually put in any effort to make friends, so that all their quote-unquote, air-quote, friends were just moreover acquaintances that they forgot after they graduated. And then their girlfriend who they met in college breaks up with them, and they're left in a dead rut. And what they did was, from that dead rut, they rose because they persevered. They put in hard work to figure out, what did I do wrong, and what can I actually do this time to put in effort to change this. And they realized, okay, back in college, I didn't actually make an effort to make friends. I was just very superficial with it and made acquaintances, and that's why I screwed up. So now that I've graduated and I'm working, I'm going to actually put in effort and put in a lot of work and effort on my own part to try and make friends. And so that's what freaking happened. And that's how they became expert dating coaches, or what have you. And so, the point of my message is, that's pretty much when you can see who actually out there puts a crutch and uses that as something to lean on, and those who actually go out and are thankful for the lifestyle they have, and pretty much go out there and put in an effort despite realizing how fortunate they are. In fact, if you're watching this video now if you're watching this video now, 99% of you guys are a lot more fortunate, a lot, than you realize. You guys are probably taking a lot of your lifestyle for granted. Maybe you are using it as a crutch yourself, as a possible excuse. If you are fed, if you are living in a mid-sized house, if you have internet connection, your own computer, free food, all this stuff, you are much more privileged. The problem is that you are just comparing yourself to the wrong people. Rather than comparing yourself constantly to all these people better than you, look at the greater majority that are a lot worse than you. There's so many more people who are worse than you in this world, who literally spend their whole days searching for just clean water. That's literally all they have time for their entire day. They just search for clean water. Go and research it. That's actually true. So if you have time to, watch this and look for, dating tips advice or lifestyle advice, then you yourself are probably more privileged. Those kids in Africa, they ain't got time for this. They ain't got time to improve their lives like this. Their number one goal is just clean water. So what I'm saying here is that you can take control of your lifestyle rather than living there in the past like a passive person. And I'll give you an example because I'm not as big as a chode now, but I'm still a chode. And I'll give you a big example of how to live your life passively. This is not what you want to do. So I would go to school, wake up, go to school, then come back. And then I'd just do everything passively. I would do it because my mom told me to do it. And I'd just do the bare minimum and just passively do it. And any social events I went to them because my mom signed me up for them. Whether they were school dances or some sort of Chinese party, something like that. It was all because someone else put it in front of me on a silver platter. And then at these social events, if I ever talked to someone, it was because they went up and talked to me. I would literally just stand there and just do my own thing, maybe eat some food if I wanted to, and just passively sit there. And the key is that deep down, looking back, I realized that I wanted to talk to that good-looking girl. And I wanted to do other stuff.
Don't get cocky.
But I was just too much of a pussy to do it. I would just sit there like a coward and just play it safe. And the complete devastation of this situation is that people actually will live their lives from the moment they're born until the moment they die, and they will live completely passively without ever changing. And they will actually miss out on all these opportunities. I guarantee you there's someone out there who has had a crush on this girl for the longest time, for years on end. And he thinks she's the perfect girl for him. And he thinks it's like a match made in heaven. But he's never talked to him because he wants to play it safe. And one day he's going to die without ever taking that chance because he's too much of a coward. And it happens. Like, I've missed out on a lot of opportunities myself. And the thing with that is, it's such a letdown. Like, people will die missing out on all these opportunities. Personally, if you look at Steve Jobs, anyone successful, they've taken risks, and sure, they've failed, but they've succeeded many times. And that's pretty much what happens if you stick around and just passively let life pass you by. I literally think of it as like I'm some sort of bystander, like a tree. If you're a passive person, which I was and still partially am, and I'm trying to change, then you're literally not doing anything. You don't have a mind of your own. You pretty much do everything because of your parents or whoever controls you. You wake up, you eat because your parents tell you to. Then you go to school. You have no opinions on anything. You just do everything because that's the way it's done. And you don't actually like anything. You don't hate anything or like anything or have any passions about anything. You're just like meh about everything. And I've seen these people, like, I was trying to be friendly back in college, and I guess I kind of lower my standards for making friends, possibly because, you know, I don't have too many. So I went up to this guy and he looked like a wreck, but I was like, okay, I don't feel that intimidated to at least talk to him and make friends with him. So I went up to him and he was a wreck. Okay, he was this Asian guy, very scrawny, scrawnier than me, which was saying a lot. He had glasses and his posture was just horrible, hunched back and stuff. And you can just tell by his body language that he was super unconfident about himself, stuff like that. So I went up to him, introduced myself, tried to make a friend. He was literally like indifferent about the entire world. He didn't contribute to the conversation at all. He barely spoke. It wasn't because he was like scared of me or anything. I could sense by his vibe that he was just like, he was fine by by me being near him. I asked him what he did for fun. Did he play League of Legends? Did he do anything? He said, nope. I am a computer scientist, and occasionally I play a little bit of a mini game. And then he mentioned some random mini game online, but he said he doesn't play much. And I was like, what do you do with your time then? And then he's just like, oh, I just do all these mundane things. And he literally had no passion for anything. He didn't really care about his major. It was something enforced upon him by his parents. I asked him, then what are your true passions? Do you have anything you actually like? And he's like, not really. And he literally had like nothing. He had no hobbies. He did nothing. He went to school and did classes because his parents told him to. He wasn't enjoying life. He was just getting past it. And it was literally like talking to a robot that pretty much almost hated life. And the thing with that is, it just seems so pathetic because I was kind of like that too. And I don't know, it's just, for me at least, I got to a point where it was just so bad that that was just not how I wanted to live. And it's just so much more fun and interesting to be, you know, passionate about stuff. And that guy, you know, he didn't do anything. He was pretty much just living life passively, rather than going out and actively trying to make friends, actively trying to, you know, establish a social network. So back to the fraternity guy situation. That guy, if he actively went out and actively tried to make friends rather than just acquaintances with his great lifestyle, then after college he can continue that on because he had made more than a superficial connection with a lot of people, and then he can keep the parties and mixers and stuff going. But yeah, it was just really weird with that kid. I wish him the best. He was obviously kind of indifferent. I'm pretty used to the vibe people give off when, you know, they don't want me talking to them. And that wasn't the vibe this kid was giving off. So anyhow, that's about it for this gameplay. If you guys watched the whole thing, thanks. Subscribe if you liked, and I'll see you guys later for the next video. So yeah, pretty much just one final snippet to add on. Again, thank you guys for watching all 30 minutes of this, if you actually did. The moral of the story is pretty much, don't do what that guy did. And I'm going to leave you with some homework. So, don't be someone who is just consciously being passive about life. And the reason is because if you do this, like, what is the point of, going through life just not liking anything at all? I'm sure there's stuff you're interested in, and possibly you can bring up a barrier where you're just like, oh, I'm not interested in this stuff because, I was rejected in the past. That's one of the things for me, I potentially could have had a deep indifference or a deep hatred or just dislike towards girls. And right now I'm like 21 years old, and I still don't have my first girlfriend, but at the same time, despite this scarcity, for some reason I don't have this indifference or hatred towards girls, because I was just introduced to the idea that maybe I can get them, I'm not the best looking guy in the world, but it's just this mindset that I've always had, like maybe I can meet an awesome girl and she won't hate me. And just because of that mindset, I actually don't have this faked indifference or this feigned indifference, and I actually have my true passions and my true beliefs revealed, which is that I actually do like girls a lot. And that's one of the things that is great about this world that I like. And so the homework for you guys is just be passionate about something. I know it's hard sometimes to find something you are passionate or you really like, but you can do it. It was tough for me. Like I remember going through a huge list of potential hobbies and just like disregarding them all because I didn't want to do them. But find something you enjoy about this world that you see yourself in the potential future actually achieving. Maybe it's meeting that really good looking girlfriend one day and becoming her boyfriend. Or maybe it's just meeting a girl and you're not even looking to find a relationship, but actually meeting her and becoming her friend and becoming possibly more than her friend one day. Or maybe just on a different spectrum, it could be sports, like winning your first sports championship or trying out the most delicious food in the world one day. There's plenty of stuff out there that you could be potentially interested in. And I really think that throughout life, things can be tough. So if you're just indifferent to it and just like there's nothing really that great about life, everything is just meh, then you're probably just going to live through it and it's going to be very dull, boring, and you're going to miss out on a lot. And finally, the last thing for homework is realize the difference between passiveness and activeness, and be active. Rather than just sitting there and wishing you can go up and talk to this person or go up and introduce yourself, you actually actively go up and do it. Because in the past, I've sat there passively and played it safe and did nothing, and then just let life fly by as I just did the bare minimum every day. And I got a ton of feelings of, I wouldn't say regret, but moreover just like, I wish I could have done something differently because I missed out on so many opportunities. There's probably a lot I can think of where, especially with girls, I potentially think they were possibly interested in me, and I didn't do anything. And now, years later, they're completely gone from my life. There's literally almost no chance of ever seeing them again, and if I do, I feel like I've screwed it up. Like, I've tried rekindling stuff with people who I've screwed up with in the past. Like, I Facebook messaged this girl who I didn't have the balls to talk to long ago, and it didn't lead anywhere. Like, I don't think she even responded. So things change, and if you pussy out now, then, 4 years later, if you even get the chance to do it again, it's like too late. They've realized how big of a coward you are, and their perspective of you have changed. But back then, I knew she was interested in me, and she was really good looking, and I screwed that up. And it's not as bad as it seems. Like, she has a boyfriend now, so I can understand why she didn't respond. And that's just one instance. Like, it's happened very recently too. But I have a little slack for this because, one, she was very good looking, almost intimidatingly. Two, she was always surrounded by all these like big haunchy guys and stuff in class, so I didn't really have a chance to talk to her. And three, I think I kind of creeped her out by staring at her too much over the semester, and that's probably why she didn't accept my Facebook request when I requested her, because she's like, oh goodness, it's that creepy Asian dude who I've never talked to but constantly gives me the creep stare in class. How did he even find out my full name and added me on Facebook? Denied. But, it happens, and I honestly think I had a chance at the beginning with a lot of these situations, because I really feel like they gave some sort of indicator that they were potentially interested in me, at least initially, and I screwed it up by not just being a man. And the only thing I regret is just not approaching. Like, if you're gonna be that superficial and just ignore my Facebook request just because of something stupid like a freaking thing like a creep stare in class. Like, honestly, come on, you don't know who I am. But, let's not get into that. The point is, just be more active and take the time to go out and initiate and approach. Or it's not even like approaching and socializing. It can be, raising your hand and talking more in class, or taking the initiative and being the leader and actually, initiating something with your social group or your club or your school event, and actually doing something rather than just sitting there passively and letting life pass you by. So thank you guys tremendously if you watch this whole thing. If you like, leave it a like. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button. And finally, I'm briefly mentioning a lot of stories in this video, so if you want elaborations on any of them, leave a comment. I do read most of the comments, well, technically all of them. I delete the ones that are bad if I have the time. And yeah, I always have time to read all of them, but I usually don't have the time, or I just choose not to make the time to go about deleting all those harsh comments. But yeah, if you have any nice comments or requests for any elaborations on any of the stories, leave a comment and I will do that. So see you guys later, and please subscribe.